Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered, usually 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. But this morning we're going 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. I have an appointment, but I really just didn't want to miss being on air with you guys. So, for those of you that typically join me from 7 to 9, you are going to get the replay of this broadcast. And if you have any questions, or if there's anything that you would like me to follow up on, please leave me a message at unfilteredvisionnews@gmail.com, or you can always send me a direct message either on Facebook, YouTube, or X, formerly known as Twitter. So again, thank you so much for joining me here this morning. Those of you who are joining me, wow, I've got a few people in here. I didn't think I was going to have anybody in here. Trust me, it's a little bit early, even for me to be online. I'm like, wow, okay, I'm doing this. But again, I really appreciate everyone who, tunes in and watches the show, even the rebroadcast. It's really important and it's truly helping my numbers get up there. I'm definitely trying to get the show monetized so that I can continue to bring you guys unfiltered information and just really bringing you the news from a different perspective. Because right now, the PSYOP is real. And so, with that, there are a few videos that I wanted to share, but also some information about what's happening with the Democrats in Texas. And then we'll definitely get into the news from all sides. But I wanted to start out with Cash Jordan, as he has some information going on, some of the latest information with immigrants. So, let's check that out.
Voters have had enough of the migrant hotel in their neighborhood. You've got screaming over here, this guy's getting arrested, but apparently somebody living at this hotel assaulted one of the locals. And there's a whole protest that you're about to see on the side. Oh, here we go. This is crazy. It's happening in the UK. The protesters want to know where all the police were when people were being assaulted. To be honest with you, the protests in America and Los Angeles, completely out of control compared to this. You have old women out here. Local residents have been told that this flag is a symbol of hate speech to certain people, and it's controversial to post the St. George's flag.
Wow.
And look at this sign right here. We are not far right, but we're not far wrong. Problem is their government has decided that they're wrong for speaking out.
Anti-migrant protests in the UK have
Look at all those
exploded
police.
once again, following the arrest of a migrant hotel resident on suspicion of assault.
Oof.
The Sun reported clashes between police and protesters outside the Britannia Hotel in London after law enforcement enacted Section 14 of the Public Order Act
It's a big guy
move
right
the
there.
demonstrators across the road from the hotel.
Whoa. Here they come. Crazy.
The protesters then started a chant criticising the Section 14
Oh,
order.
can't do that in this country. Not supposed to criticize the government over here anymore. It's a big problem. It's
The
sad.
Britannia Hotel has been the centre for protests since it was transformed from a four-star hotel for paying tourists
four-star
to a
hotel.
government-funded migrant hotel to accommodate illegal immigrants into the UK. This
nice
weekend's
place.
Britannia protest was only the most recent in a string of anti-migrant protests that have erupted in the UK
Yep, they've been
over
happening.
recent months. Sky News hosts Rowan
There's
Bean
that
and
same
James
sign.
Morrow say the protesters are sick of the special treatment given to illegal immigrants in the UK, whilst
Well, here's the thing. We've been told, not just in the UK, but in America, that all of these quote-unquote asylum seekers are coming into our countries illegally, sneaking in to get a better life. But the life they receive isn't the life people living in these countries have. Because if you come here illegally, whether it's America or the UK, you don't have to work, you don't have to pay rent, you get free healthcare, all your bills are taken care of. Local people have to pay their own bills.
Migrants.
And see, this is a part of replacement migration. Like, this is the whole plan, y'all. So it's not just happening here in America. It's happening in the UK. It's happening in Germany. It's happening in Switzerland. It's been happening since 2000. We're in 2025. And people wonder why the world is so upside down and why the governments are just so complacent, because they're a part of it. Okay, the reason why people are so upset with Donald Trump is because he's fighting against the plan. He's not going with the plan. The reason why they're even starting to get mad at China is because China is no longer going with the plan. Okay. They had China under a one-child rule, right? Where they had them killing their babies, and China was like, wait a minute, we're killing our babies. Our, our society is starting to crumble and fall down. We don't have enough people to continue, growing as a country. So they stopped the plan. Yeah. We might say a lot of things about China, but they stopped going with the plan. Okay. And so, the United Nations feels betrayed by what's going on, because see, they are part of a depopulation program. See, they're trying to eliminate people by any means necessary, and they want to replace the migration of Western society on top of all this. Because see, people from these other countries that do not have Western Christian values are out of control. They truly are out of control. They do not have a moral compass. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, well, that's mean for you to say that. I'm not being mean. I'm being honest. They don't care. They have a different value system. They do not care. They hate Christians first and foremost. They think we need to be wiped off the face of the earth. Okay. I may not be a Muslim, but I don't disagree if they want to practice their religion. Practice your religion all you want to. You don't have to practice Christianity. That's fine. But I'm not saying that you need to be wiped off the face of the earth. Okay. There's a whole big difference in that. And so when we see, Cash is showing this from the UK perspective, but he brings up a very good point. It's not just happening there. It's also happening in the United States in a very similar format. And that's what I need you guys to pay attention to. It's the format that's going on.
Are facing the boot from a protest-hit hotel after a Tory-led council sensationally won a bid to block them being housed there. The Bell Hotel in Epping, Essex, had been at the centre of anti-immigration demonstrations after one of its guests was charged with a second asylum seeker has since also been charged with assault. Epping Forest District Council launched a bid at the High Court to block migrants from being housed at the hotel. A top judge has now granted a temporary injunction that means the hotel has to be cleared of its occupants by September 12th. The decision came despite Home Secretary Yvette Cooper making a last-ditch bid to intervene in the battle. It has been welcomed by Chris Whitbread, the leader of the Epping Forest District Council, who confirmed they are now seeking to get a permanent block on migrants. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp also said local residents have the right to feel safe in their own streets. Somani Hotels Limited, which...
It's crazy that this is even something that local politicians may or may not be in favor of. And I guess there's not a whole lot of vetting in the UK when it comes to illegal immigration either. I mean, how can there be? People are sneaking in.
The Bell Hotel was refused permission to appeal against the decision.
Look at all the people.
It could still ask the Court of Appeal for permission to appeal, though. The council previously claimed Somani Hotels breached planning rules as the site is not being used
been a
for
ton
its
of riots
intended
at this
purposes
place.
as a hotel. But barristers for the company said the draconian move would cause hardship for those inside the hotel.
But as you're about to see, the real problem in the UK is some people have free speech while others don't.
A Labour councillor, Ricky Jones, even told leftist protesters to cut the of people demonstrating against mass immigration. Here he is.
They are disgusting and we need to get rid of them all.
Yeah, despite what you
How
just
can you
heard.
say that?
A jury last week cleared Jones of inciting violence. Joining me from London is Esther Krakow, writer, broadcaster,
Oh, he's
and
cleared.
commentator.
Well, because you can't help but draw parallels with the infamous Lucy Connolly case, who received 31 months in prison and is still actually currently in prison
31
for
months.
a deleted tweet about asylum hotels during the Southport riots last year.
For tweeting.
And she received 31 months because she was basically pressured into pleading guilty, which is a tactic that the state has been using, saying that you're not going to get a jury trial for the next 3 years, so you might as well plead guilty so you don't rot in prison. But if she had chosen a jury trial, she would have received likely the same result as this man, who arguably said something vile, right? People who don't want their communities fundamentally changed by mass immigration, but is getting to walk scot-free. And again, it's just drawing back to these accusations of two-tier justice here in Britain, where, you know, the Home Office is setting up anti-migrant rhetoric task forces to basically scour the internet for anti-migrant rhetoric instead of doing what the people want them to do and stop.
Okay. If you're going to do that in your country, if you're going to let some people say whatever they want, and the other side, you're going to shut them down and shut them up and send them to jail, you eliminate civil discourse. And if you eliminate civil discourse from your society, you might have civil war.
The riots and the disturbances were symptomatic of a much deeper disillusionment in this country with the way in which British people just no longer feel safe in their own communities. They no longer feel safe in their country, where lawlessness is essentially being sanctioned by the state.
Political strategist Dominic Cummings says elements within the British government are finally beginning to discuss Britain's slide into chaos and the potential for serious violence.
Yeah, this
Oliver
is bad news, man.
Lane is the bureau chief of Breitbart London.
There are two sort of issues feeding into this. First of which is essentially civilizational collapse, which is causing a rise in crime and potentially civil unrest between.
You need rights to have a civilization.
And then on the other hand, you have government incompetence and policing incompetence. And that creates that downward spiral.
One pollster conducting focus groups in small English towns this year said the disillusionment was the worst I've heard. In every group, it was anger, despondency, or misery about the state of Britain.
You've got people who feel like they're losing their country. And if you think to yourself, oh, gee, I'm going to, post something on X and it takes me 10 seconds to just say what's on the top of my mind. If you have to think to yourself, well, gee, could this land me in jail? That's a real problem. 30 people a day are being arrested for free speech offenses like retweets. A retweet could land you in jail. A cartoon could land someone in jail. This woman right here, she spent 36 hours in a British jail over a social media post. Apparently, this is a police officer serving an advisory notice to someone this month after learning that the resident who lives on the other side of this Ring doorbell was planning to attend a protest. This is very dangerous because no civil discourse, the inability of people to voice their opinions and make their voices heard, well, you know what that does? That stops a representative form of government from working properly, because politicians say, well, there's no opposition voice. We don't have to care about what those people think, but they're elected leaders for all of the people in their country. So you disable the discourse, you disable the functioning of that society. And what's even worse is it's now offensive for people to fly their own country's flag.
A spokesperson for Keir Starmer has said the Prime Minister absolutely supports people putting up the English flag after a council angered locals by vowing to tear them down.
People put up their own flag and it had to get taken down.
East London, after officials said their flags would be removed. The Union Jack and St George's flags were raised by locals as part of a movement online called Operation Raise the Colours. But Mayor of Tower Hamlets, Lutva Rahman, who was found guilty of electoral fraud in 2015, has thwarted the campaign.
What a great guy.
The national flags will now be ripped down as part of routine maintenance.
Taken down!
When asked about the saga, the Prime Minister's spokesman said, I haven't asked him about specific cases or specific councils, but I think the Prime Minister has always talked about his pride in being British and the patriotism he feels.
Right.
When pressed on whether he supports people flying the English flag, the spokesman added, absolutely. We put up English flags all around Downing Street every time the English football team, women's and men's, are out, trying to win games for us.
Yeah, politicians.
Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, meanwhile blasted Tower Hamlets Council for allowing Palestinian flags to be...
So, when one flag is allowed and another is not allowed, you're going to have a problem. That's not equality. That's not fairness. That's not free speech. If this flag is allowed, which supports a cause that doesn't exist in the UK, that exists in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine, a cause over there. If this is allowed, people should be able to fly their own flag in their own country if a foreign flag can be flown in their country, right?
Publicly displayed on lampposts instead.
Look at that.
He said, the absurd national self-loathing must end.
Yeah, and I want to pause it right there because, see, I don't know if you're follow that, because that's happening over here in the United States. How many times or how many videos have you actually seen of people burning the American flag or desecrating the American flag? And this is being done by people that are foreign to the soil, and also by some people here from the United States saying we hate America and, no, what is it? No borders, no wall, no USA at all. Some weird chant that they're saying. And I'm like, okay, you are entitled trust fund babies, okay, who will have a place to live because mommy and daddy will make sure that you're not homeless. But the people standing alongside you that you've gotten to agree with you, they don't have it like that. And what I'm seeing is here in the UK, and I'll use them for an example, is the downfall of their country, which is what they want it to happen here in the United States. I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm just trying to show you the juxtaposement. I'm trying to show you the reality. This is going on everywhere. There should never be a Palestinian flag flown anywhere except for the Middle East, because that's where it is. If you are on U.S. soil, the only flag that should be flying is the United States flag, period. Unless you are at some place like the United Nations where they have all of the countries represented there, the only other flag that should ever be flown in this country is the United States flag or the flags of different states, because each state has their own flag of representation, like California or Georgia or Florida, etc. But foreign flags shouldn't be flown here. Like, I've seen way too many Mexican flags and Palestinian flags. And I already showed you a video, earlier this week, where Eric Adams has basically committed to Little Turkey, Istanbul in New York. They have a piece of New York City that they consider Istanbul or Turkey, and raising that flag, which is disgusting, by the way. No other flag should ever be flown on this soil ever. If it's not America, you got to go. You got to go. We're not doing that. Okay. And I'm not saying these things to infuriate anybody or to incite any type of violence. I'm saying these things to you to wake you up. You need to wake up, get up off the couch, and realize that the agenda is happening. Depopulation is happening. They want us turning on one another so we can do the job that they won't do and say, oh, wow, look at all the people fighting against one another. You've defunded the police, which increases crime, which puts the community at risk. And you've done it on purpose. And then when the people cry out, hey, you need to do your job. And then when some go out and do their jobs, they're demonized for it. It's weird. But this is what we're doing, and this is where we are. So, Sassy Lady, thank you so much for being here with us here on Unfiltered Vision News and reposting the stream. Again, typically I'm on 7 to 9 a.m., but this morning I will be on from 5 to 7, and the stream will replay because I have an appointment this morning. I know I've had a lot of appointments going on, but again, I just want to make sure that I'm being consistent for you guys and, just building up what we've started here. So I'm going to finish playing the video, but I just wanted to interject that.
Hamlet's Council previously sparked controversy when they allowed Palestinian flags to be raised after the war in Gaza broke out in 2023.
Double standard.
They were eventually removed last year after members of the local Jewish community reported they found them oppressive and intimidating.
But they still put them
Shadow
up.
Home Secretary Chris Philp today slammed...
This flag was deemed oppressive and offensive before anybody even complained. Isn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy how this can be happening in a modern society? It's almost like it's going backwards right in front of us, but it's having trouble doing that because there's the internet. There are websites in America that are refusing to take down content when the British government lashes out at them and says, hey, you better delete stuff. And before you think this is some sort of joke, the UK government is already moving to investigate US companies under their Online Safety Act. Luckily, the company in question here, 4chan, they've decided that they're not going to bend the knee. They've said that American businesses do not surrender their First Amendment rights because a foreign bureaucrat sends them an email. So the UK is having a tough time enforcing what people think and say in the internet age. This is going to backfire on them big time. Hopefully it does, for the entire world's sake. There's a real free speech war going on here, and nobody's talking about it. What do you think? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate Cash's take on this, because we need to see what's going on and why it's going on. And Sassy Lady says, good morning and blessings. Thank you so much, Sassy Lady. And again, thank you so much for being up with me this early on Unfiltered Vision News. And I wanted to start off with that video from Cash to kind of set the stage. We've really seen, in my opinion, how speech has been used as a weapon, right, for or against speech. In the past, I will say more heavily in the past 5 years, that I really noticed how it changed. You know, I don't know if anybody remembers during COVID how people were trying to share their experience, right, with the injection, with how they were being treated at work, if they were losing their job, if they were not, and their voices were silenced. Why can't they just say what's happening to them? But they wanted to control the narrative. And as long as they allowed people to speak out and openly, they couldn't control the narrative. And that is what this is about. But sometimes narratives can turn into a psyop that's literally being carried out on the American people. So with that, I want to transition to what's happening in Texas. Now, I've got 2 videos from Texas, one from a state representative. Well, 2 state representatives, sorry. But one I covered yesterday, which is Nicole Collier. I'll show a video of her also. But I want to get into the first one. And I really want you to pay attention to the language, to the emotional ploy, and also to how they keep bringing up how individuals are going to be disenfranchised.
Members, I have lived in CD 29 all the days of my life, and with the passage of this map, it will move me to CD 9. With these redistricted maps, voter disenfranchisement will undoubtedly be worse in many communities like mine. Based on data from the 2020 census, Latino voters make up about 43.4% of the people in Harris County, Texas. The Hispanic population has been the largest ethnic group in Harris County since 2010. In fact, in Houston, over 38% of Houstonians aged 5 years and older speak Spanish at home. This is the case for many of my...
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. First of all, we live in America. Why is their first language Spanish? And you're proud of that. Like, yeah, they speak Spanish at home. They're here in America. If you want to speak Spanish anywhere, go to a foreign country where that is the first language, and don't live here. I'm just saying, don't live here. This is America. And see, stuff like that really is upsetting to me. It's truly, truly upsetting.
Constituents. My community deserves fair representation. Representatives who share their values, understand their culture, and are able to communicate in their first language. Representatives who truly understand the struggles that Hispanic communities face. The Hispanic population is already underrepresented. These maps further affect our representation. Additionally, based on 2020 census data, Black or African American residents make up 18.7% of the total population of Harris County. Those two groups, when combined, make up the clear majority. Despite making up the clear majority in Houston, where I live, and in this state, our voters' voices are diluted. Our communities certainly deserve to have their voices heard. I urge you to join me in voting no on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, see, this is what I don't understand. You just said combined. They make up the majority, but they're not going to be represented. What are you talking about? More than likely, oh, that's right. It may not be a Democrat. Okay, and I'm going to show you why people are voting against Democrats and their policies, especially in Texas. But before I do that, I wanted to share a comment from Carlos. He says John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Kamala Harris have all said we need to suppress the First Amendment. You are not wrong. You are correct in that, sir. They kept saying, well, people are being hateful and they're using hate speech and we need to, figure out a way. Yeah. Figure out a way. Because see, they want to use or basically make speech a weapon. And it's okay for them to say whatever they want to. But you, as a citizen, you're not going to be allowed to have free speech. And, for that representative, I find it very offensive that she's like, well, we need to be able to communicate with people in their first language. Their first language should be English, ma'am. You live in an English-speaking country, period. It should not be a foreign tongue. Spanish is not the official language of the United States. It's English. It always has been. We should never even have to restate it, period. Now, if it's a language that you choose to use amongst your family, that's fine. But we should make no concessions for you ever. We live in an English-speaking country, period. Period. And I'm proud that we are in an English-speaking country. But I wanted to share with you guys just a little bit about, the Democrats before I get into Nicole's video. Because I really wanted to share with you guys, I was like, well, what are the policies that, the Democrats are, that are being pushed by them. So here's some of their key priorities in 2025: education and school funding. So opposition to school vouchers. So they're in opposition to that. House Democrats have vowed to block constitutional amendments related to vouchers unless the legislation goes to a public vote in November, using it as leverage against GOP-backed reforms. So they're not behind the vouchers because, see, what the vouchers would do is it would move money, right? So if people wanted their children to go to better schools, they could, period. And parents would have more choice, as opposed to, okay, you live in this district, you have to go to this school. Even if the school is failing, this is the school you have to go to. And this has been the big thing about the vouchers, right? Because, people want to get rewarded for failure. They do. And they have been getting rewarded for failure for a long time. And it needs to stop. So support for boosting public education investment. Okay. So North Texas Democrats are calling for an increased funding for public schools and enhancing mental health care in schools. Now, let's just break that down. First of all, the schools are getting tons of money already because you're taxing people already. It's mismanagement. You're not teaching children, you're indoctrinating them. But then again, that's supposed to be a problem. And you keep throwing money as if that's the solution. And the school keeps getting worse because you keep throwing money at it. That's the problem. You're not really looking at the core root cause of the problem. The problem is you do not have proper teachers teaching in actual curriculum. You have people in there that are advocates that are trying to indoctrinate children. Mental health care in schools? Oh, that's right. That's code for let's get in there and convince your daughter she's a boy or your son that he's a girl. This is happening all around our country. The children are confused because they have teachers that want to come in with flags and all other kinds of things and their life on the table with their same-sex couple partner saying this is okay. That should never be allowed in school, even for teachers that are straight. I don't want to see a wedding picture of you and your husband on your desk in the classroom. I don't want to see it. Kids don't need to know about your personal life, period. They just need to know your name is Mrs. Jones or your name is Mr. Smith and you teach history and you teach math. That's it. That's the relationship, okay? You're a teacher. You're not a friend. This is not personal, okay? And that's the problem. We have a whole generation of advocates in our school. We do not have educators. There's a difference. So now the other thing that they've been pushing is reproductive rights in healthcare. So Texas Democrats strongly oppose restrictive abortion policies and push for broader access to reproductive health care. It's death care, by the way. There's nothing healthy about pushing for abortion. There's nothing healthy about that. You don't care about life. You just want death. And it's predominantly in low-income areas. So they've publicly emphasized the stakes surrounding abortion restrictions because they want more people dead and dying, especially when the mother's health is at risk. So they're blaming it on this, right? If somebody is having an ectopic pregnancy, that's not an abortion, it's an ectopic pregnancy. If somebody is having if they've miscarried, that's not an abortion. That is a miscarriage. That's why there's a classification for it. That's why I'm speaking in these terms. They already have medical classifications for it. You're just trying to tie abortion to it so you can continue to kill babies. That's what you're doing. So they're also advocating for expanded Medicaid access and broader income equality measures. Yeah, because they don't want poor people having babies. They want poor people killing their babies. And they want to give them the money to do it. Yeah, I said it. It's what you're doing. It's what you're doing. Okay? So LGBTQ plus rights and trans protections. This is what they're advocating for. Have you seen anything to help? I know I'm going to get to income, but this is what they're doing. It's almost like anything that the Republicans want, we're going to go exact opposite. No one wants this. They're redrawing the maps. Like I said yesterday, just because they redraw the maps doesn't mean that's how people are going to vote. People are going to vote for the person that they want to represent them. People are tired of not having good representation. And trust me, I've seen the representation in the House on both sides. I'm not impressed. I'm really not impressed. We need better representation. So Democrats are actively restricting bills. Democrats are actively resisting bills targeting the LGBTQ plus community and policies that restrict protections based on their gender identity. Okay, first of all, this is what you've made a protected class and you've given them privileges because they already have rights as human beings. They already have rights as citizens. What are we doing? You're protecting somebody because they have sex with the same sex of a person? I mean, because that's all this is sex. That's all it is. It's not about anybody being humane. It's not about anybody actually wanting to do something well in society. You're protecting people because they want to have a same-sex relationship, period. That is what we are doing here. And you want to push it off on other people and say, you have to accept this. No, we don't have to accept your cult. The LGBTQ plus is a cult, period. You want people basically legislatively having to be under a cult. Think about what you're doing. You should be arrested for this. Anybody who's supporting this and pushing this needs to be hauled off and replaced in the legislature. Period. And that's all around the country. That might be my opinion, but that's where I'm at. Knock it off. Knock it off. Stop trying to give people privileges and writing it into law. Knock it off. We're not standing for it. Now, notably, Republicans passed HB 229 in 2025, defining gender strictly by biological sex, a move Democrats oppose as discriminatory. I'm going to have to sit on that one for a second. Really? Because here's the deal. Even in your cults, men are trying to be women and women are trying to be men. Nobody's trying to be an ornate toaster. Okay? They're not. And in that process, they're making themselves eunuchs where they will never be able to reproduce again. And you're creating a whole generation of people that cannot reproduce. What are you doing? We see what you're doing. This is a death cult. Democrats, wake up. I think everybody will forgive you if you wake up. It's going to take you a minute. It's going to take you a minute. But you need to turn away from this evil, period. You need to turn away from it because it's evil. Or do you not see that? Are you so engrossed in your party that you cannot wake up? Wake up. It's just demonic at this point, and everybody sees it. Even people in the Democratic Party see it, and they want their leadership to stop this. But you can't. Like a drunken sailor. You just can't give up the bottle. It needs to stop. So income equality and income access. Okay. Priorities also include raising the minimum wage, fighting income inequality, and ensuring middle class support. Okay. So you raise the minimum wage from $15 to $20 an hour, and guess what? Companies can't afford it and they shut down. You're not, you want to defund the police, but luckily they're still in a Republican state. But I'm just saying, you want to defund the police. You let robbery go on running rampant. And the store shut down and there's nowhere for anybody to work, and you wonder why communities are failing. Your policies are horrible. No, don't raise the minimum wage. Actually have people get educated, right? And learn a trade where they can make $45 an hour and start their own business, whether that's in plumbing, carpentry, right? Mechanics, doing things with their hands, even being an accountant, right? Even getting into coding. These are areas that pay very well, but you're not trying to teach Americans to do this, but you will bring in somebody from overseas and you'll train them because you can pay them less. This is still all a part of replacement migration. It's like, why are you so bent on destroying America? You're bent on it. Like you wake up every day thinking, how can I destroy America? Like that's where I'm at with Democrats. I'm sold on that. So flood safety and disaster preparedness. Okay. Well, guess what? In those counties, they refused to get the alarm systems. They did. It's on record. You can look at it, you can Google it. They refused it. Even when they were offered the money. Because they just didn't want it. Yeah, they didn't want it. So what are you going to do? It says in response to the deadly July flooding, Democrats support improving flooding warning systems, emergency protocols, and safety standards at youth camps. They had everything except for the alarms because they didn't want them. So force it on them, I guess, right? That's what y'all did. Because they thought, okay, if we've got the the national emergency system, which they did have on their phones and different things, that they would just use that. That's a failure at the local level. Not at the state level. That's a local failure. But okay, at least you're trying. Anti-gerrymandering and voting rights. Funny. So Texas Democrats have staunchly opposed Republican-led redistricting efforts, staging walkouts, legal challenges, and protests to protect minority representation and voting rights. Well, here's my thing. Do better at your job and more people will vote for you. What a concept. Because here's the thing. Even if they redistrict all of these districts, if the representatives are doing their job, people will continue to vote for you. If you're not doing your job, you're going to be out of a job. Period. People are tired. Apparently, people are so tired in Texas that it's all red. So Democrats, obviously, you haven't been doing your job. And you would say, well, they just don't have a voice. No, they just don't have crazy people that they want representing them. Do your job and stop being a crazy person. Stop being a cult member and do your job for your constituents. They're tired. It goes on both sides. So, in contrast, GOP Senate priorities, for context, here are some of the conservative policy areas being advanced by Republican leadership, priorities that Democrats frequently oppose or resist: school choice programs and vouchers. Democrats are against that. Banning hemp-derived THC products. I'm not sure if they're against that or not. Increasing homestead property tax exemptions. Why is this a bad thing? Teacher pay, grid reliability, and water investments. Hopefully they're not against that, right? Cultural legislation, 10 Commandments in schools, AI-generated child pornography bans, parental rights, and book restrictions. Okay, now the last two, they're probably against that because, they want to indoctrinate children and they want to, mess up their minds and destroy who they are. They want to molest them at every point in time that they can get. And the Democratic Party, I don't care what you say, that's who you are, and you need to be sued for all of it. You need to just be brought up on charges. Period. Because you're doing it in our face and we see you. And the sad part is it's not everybody in the Democratic Party, but it's the voices. It's the people that you hear behind the microphone. It's those individuals. Yeah, we need to go after you. You're not protected. Okay. At least not from a lawsuit. Just saying. The 10 Commandments in school, a lot of people go, oh my gosh, that's religious. Okay, our laws are based on the 10 Commandments. It is a historical, factual document. Okay. And I've seen it here in Georgia in different federal buildings or city hall buildings where they will have the 10 Commandments listed because that is the foundation of a lot of our laws in the United States, even though some of them are not followed. In particular, when it comes to, you should not make anything above the ground or below the ground. Talking about idols. You're not supposed to make statues, but we have statues everywhere. So that's something that we are not abiding by, and we need to get back to that. I'm okay with a placard, a plaque that says, here in this area or section, these historical things occurred, right? This historical event occurred right here where you're standing, and give a little blurb about it. And that's it. That's it. That's fine. We should have that, right? So we kind of know like, oh, wow, this is what happened with this fight in the Civil War. This happened over here. This happened over there. That's fine. But the statues, we need to get rid of them because they become idols. And that is why God made the 10 Commandments the way he did. Okay. Housing affordability, Bitcoin reserve, and other economic measures. Are they against these things? Really? Increased homestead and tax exemptions? I'm down with that because a lot of people have to pay a lot in taxes. So I'm sure the people that get the homestead, they are very grateful for the relief. Okay. But this is their opposition. You know, they oppose the vouchers and they push for increased funding and protection for public schools. They advocate for access to abortion and expanded care, defend against restrictive gender identity laws like HB 229. They push for higher minimum wage and middle class support, which is okay. I'm okay with that, but it's just like, how are you doing it? Okay. Support improving infrastructure and safety for after July floods, commendable, but you really have to work with the local government. And then strongly resist GOP maps, use walkouts and legal action to fight gerrymandering. But both sides do it when they have the majority. You can see what they're trying to do in California. You see what they've done in Illinois and New York. But then again, let's look at the quality of life in those states. It is a dumpster fire. California, New York, and Illinois are dumpster fires of states. And people are leaving in droves. They don't want to stay there because they're tired. Okay? They are tired of this Democratic cult. They're tired of the cult in the party, running the party. They're exhausted. So here's the abortion-related proposals, right? HB 257, abortion for healthy fertility and lethal fetal anomalies. Basically, what they're talking about here would be like an ectopic pregnancy or a miscarriage, and they're trying to juxtapose the two, and they need to stop that. They really do need to stop that. Doctors know if somebody's having a miscarriage, they're having a miscarriage. If they're having an ectopic pregnancy, they're having an ectopic pregnancy. There should not be a question. But you want to still have this on the books so you can justify abortion. That's the sad part. It says, filed by Representative Donna Howard, who's a Democrat in Austin, this bill would broaden the medical expansion by allowing physicians to perform abortions to preserve a patient's physical or mental health. Including future fertility and in cases of lethal fetal diagnoses. It would empower physicians to use their best medical judgment without external overrides or medical review boards. They're doing that already. What is wrong with you? They're already doing it. But now, see, when you start to create laws like this, they can expand or decrease laws. And right now you're trying to set something in place so you can increase it. You need to just leave the medical up to the medical. And let doctors be doctors and stop trying to tie their hands legislatively. And this is the big problem about this whole abortion concept. Stop killing babies. Period. That's where we're at. Stop killing babies. There will be times where a woman's body will reject a fetus, and that's where you have a miscarriage. That's where you have an ectopic pregnancy. That's where you might have complications. And doctors are versed in helping with this because those are not abortions. You need to stop trying to juxtapose the two to justify doing something else. That's the sad part about this. They also have HB 39, which is rape and incest exception, also introduced by Representative Donna Howard. This bill would permit abortions in cases of rape and incest, areas currently not covered under existing Texas law. And, you know, even Reagan talked about this, and even Donald Trump. You know, they're like, we should make exceptions for rape and incest if someone wants to have an abortion. They've already said this, even at the federal level. So it's weird. So House Joint Resolution 80 constitutional amendment to restore abortion access, authored by Representative Anna Marie Ramos, District Democrat in Richardson. This joint resolution seeks to place a constitutional amendment on the ballot to restore abortion access, allowing patients and doctors to make decisions free from criminal penalties. It will require 2/3 approval in both the House and Senate and public vote. Okay. Again, they're about killing babies and open borders. That, to me, that's just what the Democrats are about. That is what you're about. Until you start doing different, that's where I'm at. Senate Bill 31, the Life of the Mother Act, clarifying medical emergencies. The bipartisan bill passed unanimously by the state. The Texas state aims to clarify the narrow medical exemption in the state's near total abortion ban. It would, and this is bipartisan, and it passed unanimously, so it's already in place, allow physicians to act before a condition becomes intimately life-threatening as long as it poses a serious risk of death or impairment, include conditions like ectopic pregnancies, a premature rupture of membranes. Shield doctors' discussions with patients or colleagues from being construed as aiding and abetting an illegal abortion, require training for physicians on the clarified exemption. So, criticism: abortion rights advocates argue SB 31 is too restrictive, excluding exceptions of race and incest, but they already have a bill for that, or fetal anomalies, and that its language remains vague. Reddit commentary put it bluntly: they've convinced Democrats and doctors to support a bill they claim will protect life-saving abortion care, but the Life of the Mother legislation is a Trojan horse. There's a 100-year ban hiding inside. Okay. So Medicaid expansion protocol. This was sponsored by a Democrat. SB 232 proposes expanded Medicaid under the name Live Well Texas, potentially extending coverage to over 1 million additional Texans. Advocates note that this would be funded predominantly by federal dollars. However, Republicans continue to oppose Medicaid expansion, making passage uncertain. Well, here's the deal. Why are you relying on the federal government to pay for your people in your state? The people in your state have nothing to do with the federal government. Really? If you want to expand it, figure out how to pay for it in your state. And that's for all states, right? And I do understand that we do have federal programs for Medicaid and even Medicare in situations where people cannot pay. There is a federal program for that, but states shouldn't be reliant upon that, especially if they're talking about expanding. And who are they expanding it to? I guess that's my bigger question. Housing and Budget Amendment, Medicaid expansion via commission. On budget day, the Texas House approved an amendment to create state commission to expand Medicaid eligibility aligned with federal matching programs. Projections estimate this would bring in $110 billion in federal funds, cover 1.2 million more Texans, generate 230,000 jobs, and save rural hospitals around $7 billion per year in uncompensated care. Notably, all Democrats supported it, with only 2 Republicans breaking rank. Yeah. Rosie's Law, restoring abortion coverage in insurance. Although also tied to abortion, this longstanding proposal is relevant to Rosie's Law, would repeal bans on abortion coverage under Medicaid and private federal insurance plans. It would ensure coverage for abortion care and contraceptive, including sterilization and emergency contraceptive, without cost sharing. While its latest iteration was introduced during the previous legislation session, it's often cited in ongoing discussions. No, people do not want their federal dollars going towards abortions. There are people that do not support that. So get off that. I can understand why that kind of died on the floor where it was. And I asked, I said, do they support Epic City? And it did say Representative D. Texas, notably the first Muslim elected official in Texas, has publicly expressed support for the Epic City project. He criticizes the investigations into it, saying they were unnecessary and added more fuel to the fire. So if anybody's not familiar with Epic City, sorry to talk too fast, but Epic City is basically a Muslim city predominantly, and they want to be under Sharia law. Sharia law is contradictory to the Constitution, but that is what they want to live under within the confines of the United States. They need to leave, in my opinion. Get up off the soil. Bye. If you want an epic city, figure out how to build it, in the Middle East and live there and move all of your people there and all of your children and do what you need to do. But you're not going to live here and have the protections of the Constitution while living under a completely different Constitution, which is Sharia law. Not on the soil. Not on the soil. It says there's no sweeping statement from the Texas Democrat Party formally supporting or opposing Epic City in party platform documents. Their platform broadly expresses religious discrimination and supports civil rights for all communities, principles that align with protecting projects like Epic City if they truly remain inclusive. They are not. And they're very open about it. I don't know if I played some videos for you guys. So there's individual support by this representative. The party doctrine, Texas Democrat platform, emphasizes opposing religious discrimination. So it's like, if you don't go along with Epic City, then you're a bad person. No. So the U.S. Department of Justice closed its investigations into Epic City and proposed Muslim-centered community near Dallas without taking action. This came after complaints of alleged discrimination and political pressure. The Texas Funeral Commission chair was caught sending Islamophobic text messages about Epic City, sparking backlash and fueling claims of bias in how the project was being treated. So the Democrat response, this person who's in office, we need to stop putting people of foreign birth in office. If your family is not post 1776 and 1776, you can't be in office. I'm okay with that. But you have to trace your lineage back pre-1776 in order to run for office. And if your lineage does not extend there, you cannot be in office, period. Can't just come in here from another country and then be in our government, period. Because we can't be in y'all's. I can't go over to London, even if I spent years there. They're not going to let me in the parliament because I'm not a native to London, period. I have a totally different mindset on what freedoms and laws should be in place. So we shouldn't be allowing people from other countries to come into our country and then get into our government, because you can see how horrible our government is right now. And it's horrible because we have all of these different ideologies from other countries that do not believe in freedom. They do not care about the Constitution. A lot of them want to rip it up. They just say it's an archaic document. No, it's not. It's the standard. And if you don't like the standard, leave. Why are you even in office? So this representative defended Epic City, saying the investigations were politically motivated and added more fuel to the fire instead of supporting a legitimate housing and cultural project. Because we already know, sir, you're just building up an army there under Sharia law, period. We all see the writing on the wall. The answer is no. If you want Epic City, fine, build it in another country, just not here. So the Democrats more broadly have not issued an official party-wide endorsement, but their platform emphasizes fighting religious discrimination and protecting civil rights. This indirectly aligns them with protecting Epic City's right to exist without harassment. So there's developer community response. Developers of Epic City stress it's meant to be an inclusive community with a cultural hub, not a religious exclusive project, which is a lie. Muslim community leaders, have framed the scrutiny as an attack on religious freedom and minority housing development. Stop. Because we all know that you are, want to throw a rock and hide your hand. We all know where this is going and what you're doing. We all know what's happening, and it's sad. So what we're going to do next, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get into this, but let's go back to the representative from Texas, right? We're going to get into her, Miss Nicole Collier, who I covered yesterday. So let's talk about it.
We are setting the stage so that we can have a legal record to present to the court about these proposed maps that we know are violating of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. These maps will prevent Black and Brown individuals from selecting the candidate of their choice because they're cracking and packing these districts. They are splitting them up, and they're not allowing communities that have shared interests to vote for the candidate of their choice.
I've been really buoyed by the conversations I've had with Democratic governors throughout this country and all of our Democratic elected officials.
Sorry, I have to leave. They said it's a felony for me to do.
Okay. Now, I want you guys to notice, I don't know if you notice this little triangle here. That is for anybody who's done any photography, it is a lighting board. And you can see the light kind of shining on her face. Again, this is all a setup. It's all a setup because you can see in the framing in the background, all this lighting in the background. Why are you in the bathroom with lighting? You're having a two-way conversation with somebody that's being recorded. But none of this is organic. And she's like, oh, they're telling me that I have to get back to the house floor. I'm in the bathroom. You're in the bathroom with a whole camera crew. What are we doing? I need y'all to stop. None of this is organic. None of this is organic. All of this is fake. This is like watching the Truman Show. This is a complete reality show by the Democratic Texas House. Period. And the DNC is involved. Now I'm going to finish playing it. Okay, so you guys can watch it. But this is a complete psyop.
Do this. Apparently, I can't be on the floor or in the bathroom. Well, you told me I was only allowed to be here in the bathroom. No, hang on. Bye, everybody. I've got to go.
That is outrageous. And first of all, let me tell you something. Representative Collier in the bathroom has more dignity than Donald Trump in the Oval Office.
There you go.
That is outrageous. What they're trying to do right there is silence.
What are these two doing? What are these two knuckleheads doing? She has more dignity. What are you doing? Be quiet. Stop. You need to stop. You need to stop. I went over this yesterday. The 5 counties that they've redistricted, right? Even if they vote majority Republican, they are majority minority districts. And the majority in those districts are all Hispanic. They're not Black people. They're not. They're not. I think like one district has more than 20% Black people. Like one out of the 5. All the other 4 is like not even in double digits for Black people. So this is not about Black people, period. It is not. This is not about Black people. This is definitely about Latinos. And we are not going to be involved in that struggle. No. Do your thing. Do your thing. And most people that are Hispanic or of Latin descent, they vote Republican. They don't vote Democrat, period. So I think that's another reason why the Democrats are so upset, because they already know that that's not their voting bloc. So what you gonna do? Just saying.
An American leader, silence a Black woman. And that is outrageous. And I hope everybody took note of that. The fact that she can't even let her voice be heard is freaking outrageous.
She's in the bathroom. First of all, why isn't she on the floor making her voice heard? Yeah, she's in legislative session. She's not supposed to be discussing anything going on in the session while the session is in enactment. It is a violation. Are you dumb? You're an attorney. You look crazy in the bathroom with a whole camera crew. Stop it. Stop it. You can let your voice be heard on the floor. After you have been dismissed, then you can do your podcast and you can discuss whatever you can discuss, right? Because you can't discuss everything if it's being currently discussed in chambers. You have to wait because there are some things of record that you cannot discuss. because you're not going to be protected by the speech and debate clause. So anything that she said in that bathroom isn't covered by the speech and debate clause because she's not on the floor. And yes, she could be cited for what she did. But again, we're trying to build her up. We're trying to build her up and make sure that she is the face of, oh my goodness, all this racial discrimination. And oh my gosh, there's gerrymandering. Oh my goodness, stop it. Both parties do it. I don't want to hear it anymore. You're exhausting. Both parties are truly, truly exhausting at this point. You're only doing this for your own benefit. You don't care about the American people. You never did. This is about party. This is not about the people. Because if it was about the people, you would be on the floor fighting. You would be out in the streets, knocking door to door. If it was really about the people. If it was really about the people, Austin wouldn't be a dumpster fire. If it was really about the people. What about Dallas? What about Houston? What about all these other major cities in Texas? If you really cared about the people, the state wouldn't look the way it looks at the local level. I need y'all to get it together. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to share with you guys a video about PSYOPs so we can really take a look at what's happening to us with our government and our government officials. So we will see you on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bytes can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments. So it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question. Do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, typically 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And this morning, we're bringing you the news from 5 to 7 a.m. because I have an appointment, but I didn't want to miss being able to broadcast to you guys and just share with you some news that's out there and also some things to look out for. So thank you again for joining me. And this will be on rebroadcast. But if there's anybody up to it, this is Mighty Men Thursday, and it is open mic. So if there are any of our men out there that want to join me, please, you can send me a direct message on X, YouTube, or Facebook, and just, put in the comments saying, hey, I sent you a message, send me a link so I can be on your show. We can definitely do that. So again, thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News. So we're going to get into this last video that I wanted to share with you guys. And this is about PSYOPs. And it's very important that we see it for what it is, right? Like I've been talking about this whole situation with Nicole Collier. It is a psyop, right? And you can see how they built it up. They've basically propped her up. I said, somebody on my show yesterday, Black in Power, he was like, yeah, they're setting her up like the Rosa Parks. Like she's like this whole movement now. And I'm like, yeah, they are. And they want her on everybody's lips. Oh my gosh, can you see what they're doing to this poor Black woman? Stop that. I don't feel sorry for her. You wanted the job. Do your job and support your constituents in your district. Do your job. Okay? And if you're going to fight for them, fight for them. And that's it. But this whole thing, oh, I'm going to sleep in the chamber because I'm not going to sign a permission slip that I have to be followed. The only reason you have to be followed is because you got fled the state. And the governor told you under the laws that have been in place and been on the books that he was going to have you detained by DPS when you return to the state. You already knew what you were getting into, but you're using this as a way to infuriate people, still using emotional and identity politics. Oh, now it's all about race. Oh my goodness, she's a Black woman. And stop it. Stop it. You are an accomplished attorney. That's who you are. And yes, you just so happen to be a Black woman. Do your job. Do your job. Not going to feel sorry for you. Get it done. But let's check out what psyops look like.
Completely taken over. But people are waking up. I spent 20 years in the U.S. military. I'm a behavior expert. I've trained psyops. I'm the best-selling author in behavioral psychology. I want to show you exactly how to identify what we call engineered reality, or what some people call psyops. At the end of this, I'm going to give you a tool that's literally going to give you a score out of 100 that shows you how likely something is to be a psyop. Let's do this. So the first thing you need to know is following the FATE model: focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. This is what triggers the mammalian part of our brain that makes all of our real decisions. The first part is focus. Psyops always aim to hijack your attention with repetition, shocking visuals of fear-inducing scenarios. Some examples are like 24/7 media coverage of a crisis, or constant repetition of terms like unprecedented. So with this, pause and ask, why is this message being pushed so aggressively? So compare how much airtime different stories are receiving and note any disproportionate focus. The second part here is authority. Trusted figures might shift their tone or positions unnaturally to support the narrative. So watch very closely for expert panelists or endorsements where authority figures might speak outside of their expertise. Pay close attention to that one. Then we have tribe. So messages that polarize opinions or create stark in-groups versus out-groups, or exploit our tribal instincts. For example, labeling groups as patriots versus traitors, or scientific versus deniers. Be very careful when you hear that language. Finally, we have emotion. So be wary of any communication that triggers strong emotions like fear, hope, or outrage without any clear, verifiable evidence. So emotional responses suppress critical thinking. Emotional responses suppress critical thinking. So as a tip here, analyze the evidence that's presented to you. If facts are replaced by appeals to emotion, you need to be very, very cautious.
Now I'll pause it right there. Now, just with what he's told us, and I was telling you that this whole thing that's happening with Nicole Collier is a psyop because it follows this pattern. It follows the pattern because it's like it's all emotional, right? And you lose your critical thinking to even be like, why are we even here? Why are we being so emotional? Because they keep focusing on, well, she's a Black woman and she's being suppressed. That has nothing to do with the redistricting. Nothing. But can you see it? That's what I want us to start seeing. We need to just see it. When anything is being presented in front of us, we need to just be like, yeah, That's a psyop. So Lola, thank you for reposting the stream. Black and Power, thank you for reposting the stream. And Patty Cakes, thank you so much for reposting the stream. And Lola says, if it's on the news like that HPV vaccine on a loop every day, morning, noon, and night, using mom groups to manipulate, I don't trust it. Emotionally manipulated. Yes. And this is what he's talking about. These are the things we need to see. Again, when he said it, it was like, yeah, when something is being emotionally pushed and you lose your critical thinking, you've even forgotten, like, why are we even here? But you're so enraged about what's going on.
As an example of this, think about like a news channel repeatedly showing images of empty grocery shelves and panicked shoppers during a food supply scare. It dominates every broadcast and it pushes people into fear-driven behavior. Next, question novelty. Our brains are wired to focus on sudden or unusual changes because they signal potential threats or opportunities. And this is an evolutionary survival mechanism. Psyops exploit this by creating events that break normal expectations, like unexpected crises or dramatic revelations. So ask yourself, why is this new? So consider if the event or somebody's message has been artificially manufactured or timed. Look for patterns like sudden shifts in public opinion, trending hashtags that are unusual, or viral videos that seem very coincidental. So for this one, just picture a new viral video just claims to expose a government cover-up, but it conveniently comes out the exact same day that there's some damaging evidence against some high-ranking official. The timing shifts public focus. All of this is part of the NCI system I developed for teaching tradecraft and extreme psychological operations. And there's even a gigantic textbook for all of this stuff in the description. Definitely not for everybody, but it's definitely the most comprehensive guide in the world on this stuff. So next item, look for multiple sources. Centralized narratives create an echo chamber, and they silence dissent and they narrow perspectives. For example, if all media outlets present identical talking points, it is a humongous red flag. So actively seek out contrarian or independent voices, even if they challenge something that's already in your head. So in reality, an example, during a maybe breaking health crisis, all the major news outlets report on the exact same study, but independent researchers revealed the study was funded by a company selling the solution. So watch for that group speak. Next is identify cognitive dissonance weapons. Let's talk about how this works. So cognitive dissonance comes up when new information clashes with our identity or our beliefs. So psyops exploit the hell out of this by including micro-agreements. Micro-agreements are little, small, seemingly harmless concessions to shape your identity. And over time, you're going to unconsciously align your behavior to reduce that internal conflict. And as a weaponization example of this, a psyop might present you as a part of moral or intelligent enlightenment, like only good citizens do XYZ. If you disagree with that, you risk some identity conflict there. So reflect on your identity and ask, am I being nudged to identify with some other group? So be very careful of any campaigns that are asking for seemingly minor commitments there, like signing petitions, changing your profile picture that evolves into some bigger compliance or demand later. As an example of this, let's say a company launches an ad campaign and they claim real patriots buy local. If you disagree with their product, it feels like rejecting your identity as a patriot. So this pushes you to conform. Be very, very skeptical about those identity statements. Next is looking for those emotional scripts. And what I mean by this is the scripts that were written in our brains by our ancestors. So manipulated narratives trigger instincts like the fear of loss or scarcity, social rejection, or danger. For example, a media story about food shortages might activate survival scripts that cause panic buying and stuff like that. And we have scarcity fear. This is sudden warnings about limited resources like water or medicine. also sparks that kind of behavior. And then we have tribal rejection. These are threats of being socially outcast, like you're selfish if you don't comply. And those things override logic every time. And as a tip for this, break the script by focusing on the facts. Like, what's the likelihood of this scenario? So compare the claims with other sources. For this, just picture where a politician says something like, if we don't act now, our children will not have a future. This taps into survival instincts, those ancestor scripts in our head, and it's tied to protecting offspring. It creates urgency without any facts. Next is follow the money. So there's a trail of beneficiaries here. So identifying who benefits always is going to reveal the motive. So look for funding sources like sponsorships or political connections that are tied to the narrative. So use tools like opensecrets.org or public financial records to see who profits from this. So for policies or campaigns, identify the industries like pharmaceuticals, tech companies, etc., that stand to gain the most. So to illustrate this in your mind right now, picture a charity that's promoting clean energy awareness, and they seem noble until an investigations are showing that it's funded by a solar panel corporation that's lobbying for subsidies or something like that. Next, and this one is very important, is analyze the context boundary. The mechanism here is context, and context defines what is permissible. So manipulative people shift contexts to normalize extreme behavior. As an example of this, in emergencies, people accept surveillance or martial law that they normally would completely resist. So ask, what is the context? Compare some similar events in different settings to see if the rules or responses seem disproportionate. Look for contradictions. So for lots of the students who are brand new to NCI University, this right here is the most massive realization when they realize that the ability to weaponize cognitive dissonance and then shift the context can get anyone to do almost anything. As a hypothetical example of this, let's say there's a major cyber attack. The governments are now justifying some sweeping surveillance laws to protect the citizens. This changes the context to make previously unacceptable actions seem absolutely necessary. Next, spot the use of archetypes because they're woven into our brains. PsyOps simplify narratives by using archetypes like heroes and villains and saviors. Some examples are like portraying one leader as the sole solution or demonizing dissenters as the enemy. Deconstruct the story. Ask, who are the characters and what roles are they playing? Simplistic, like good versus evil stories usually signal manipulation just about every time. So always seek nuance there. In the real world, you're going to see something like maybe a leader is repeatedly portrayed as a savior fighting something that's pure evil, and the narrative ignores their mistakes and oversimplifies the conflict to prevent a lot of scrutiny. Next, evaluate the frame. So let's do a step-by-step evaluation here. First one is expectation. What are you expected to believe or do based on this thing that you're exposed to in the media? Next is belief. What assumptions are being made about you, like your values or your fears? Then we have perception. So how is reality being shaped, like selective facts or missing contexts? And definition is the final step here when it comes to a frame. What truth is being asserted as something that's completely unchallengeable? This comes up with information suppression. So really look for topics that are being avoided, critics that are being silenced. If somebody needs to be silenced in order for an idea to make it, then the idea is not good. So alternative viewpoints being discredited, that's a big one to look out for. So cross-check timelines of events and notice if critics are labeled conspiracists or if algorithms are suppressing some kind of specific search. And this is a big one, especially in today's time. So to get a good example of this, during maybe a corporate scandal, the company's PR team frames these critics as disgruntled employees with a grudge. So this shifts the focus away from the legitimate concerns to the motives of the critics. And it does it almost without us realizing that that's happening in our brain. So next, be alert to rapid compliance shifts. This one is scary and it's happening every day. PsyOps create urgency to drive rapid compliance. And these tactics are stuff like emotional appeals, staged group behaviors, or false consensus. For this, it's really important to slow down and resist the pressure to act, to question the conformity as much as possible, and test the message, engaging the skeptics there. So in the real world, this might look like maybe a viral social media challenge urges all these users to adopt this brand new symbol or profile picture or hashtag kind of overnight, and it creates a wave of compliance. So later, this is kind of like a foot in the door technique. It's tied to some divisive political agenda. Next, study the timing of the events, and this one's huge, especially right now. Timing is everything. Ask yourself, why is this happening now? So what other events or scandals might this thing be distracting everybody from? So look for very coincidental timing with unrelated major news stories or political movements. PSYOPs can very often be smoke screens. And in real life, you might see stuff like a huge celebrity breakup floods all of the headlines exactly as some major investigative report about government corruption is about to be released. Coincidence? Probably not. The next thing I want you to do is to sharpen your brain to start hearing and understanding these manipulation tactics. And one of the biggest things that you can do, the most effective way that I could train you right now, just you and me, is to teach your brain to recognize logical fallacies. So let's go through these, because PSYOPs very often use these flawed arguments to convince people. And if you know how to spot them, it makes you a lot harder to manipulate. Let me give you 10 of these so that your brain gets hardwired to start seeing everything a whole lot differently. So the first one that you're going to see all the time, appeal to emotion. So this uses fear and anger and hope to bypass logic. So like, if you don't support this, children are going to suffer. Next is the straw man argument. This misrepresents somebody's argument so they can attack it better. So somebody might say they oppose the lockdowns because they don't care about lives. Think about that one. Number 3 is the bandwagon fallacy. So this claims that something is true because everyone supports it. And this is, you hear this all the time. Millions of people agree with X, Y, and Z. You should agree with it too. Number 4 is the false dilemma. This presents only 2 extreme options and it ignores alternatives. So it's the either you're with us or you're against us fallacy there. Number 5 is the ad hominem attacks. This is the attack of the person and not the argument. Be very observant for this. So this is when you hear you can't trust her. She's not a scientist. You can't do X because they're not qualified based on X. Ad hominem is very common, and I want your brain to be able to spot it. Number 6 is appeal to authority. And this is a claim that something is true because an authority figure said so. So like Dr. X supports it, so it's absolutely right. You have to trust the science. Number 7 is the slippery slope. These are claims that one action is going to lead to some extreme negative outcome. So you've heard this before. Somebody says something like, if we allow this, we're going to lose all of our freedoms. All of our freedoms are gone. The country is gone. All of that kind of talk like that. Be very attuned to when you hear that and very cautious when you hear that. Number 8, hasty generalizations. And these are broad claims that are made with very little evidence. So the example is 2 politicians lied, so all of them must be corrupt. So giant claim, tiny bit of evidence. 2 politicians might have lied, so they're all corrupt. Number 9 is huge. It's the red herring. So this distracts people with irrelevant information. You've heard this maybe as an example when somebody says, why are we worrying about climate change when we have so much crime going on right now? It's an argument of distraction. Number 10 is false equivalence. This compares 2 things as equals when they're absolutely not equal. So you'll hear somebody say something in the news that's both sides have extremists, so they're exactly the same.
I share that with you guys because, yeah, like I said, this whole situation with the Democrats in Texas, it is a complete psyop because they keep bringing in, well, if this happens in Texas, this is going to happen with the rest of the country, and they're making Donald Trump out to be a straw man, like all of it. You guys, all of it. Shawnee, I thank you so much for reposting stream and joining us this morning. And Lola, she says, that was so good. Yes, thank you. Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah. She says, yes, huge psyop. But yeah, I'll definitely, when I repost, that I usually do in the afternoon, because this is going to replay for a couple of hours. But when I repost in the afternoon, I'll definitely make sure to repost that link, and that will take you to YouTube, where you can download that document that he was talking about, so that we can be more aware and alert to what's going on around us. Because a lot of times, as the general public, we are very trusting, because we really want to think that, individuals that are bringing us news, that are bringing us information from these different outlets, whether they are mainstream, legacy, or independent, that they are bringing us the best information. And sometimes it's not always so. It just isn't. And it's up to us to make sure, as consumers of information, that we are responsible for how we take in the information. We can't just hear everything and then go off of our feelings, right? We can't do that anymore. We have to be better connoisseurs of information. And I remember talking about this when I started Unfiltered Vision News, and I spent I think I spent a whole podcast talking about the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act and the original Smith-Mundt Act, and how now, under the Modernization Act, we as the American public can be propagandized. But under the original Smith-Mundt Act, they could not propagandize the American people, and we had to be told the truth. And you sit back and you go, why would they start lying to us to control us? It's easier to control people with psyops. And I know, watching that video, you're like, yeah, I can see that happening. Yes, this just happened. Exactly. But see, when you don't know that you're being manipulated, it's easier to manipulate you. But now that we know we're being manipulated and we're waking up out of the matrix, we need to continue to wake up and wake up others. And Lola says, she said the whole video. She says, I was saying that. Yeah. Yeah. We're here. We are here. And like I said, now that we're awake, we need to continue to share with others what we're learning about psyops, and to be aware. Because, I do watch different media outlets. I'll watch Alex Jones. I'll watch Roland Martin. I'll watch different people, because I want to see what they're saying, what their perspectives are. And do I agree with everything they're saying? Not all the time. But they will say things and cover information that's not typically covered in legacy media. And then when I watch legacy media, I really can point out and say, okay, you've been given a directive to put information out a certain way, because I can hear it and I can see it. And you're showing me what you're doing. Yeah. And Lola says, she goes, I watch them too. Yeah, right. Yeah, because it gives you a different balance and perspective. But that's needed in order to be awake in the world that we're in. And Black Empower says, good morning. The psyop with Nicole Collier makes her a damsel in distress. To contrast Jasmine Crockett's, I'm an independent, strong woman. Yeah, definitely. And they're all scripted, right? They are psyops in our face. And Lola says, if they call them crazy, I'm watching them. Right. I know, that's sad, right? It's like, oh, you want to watch all the fringe people. If they're on the fringe, it's like, yep, that's where you want to get your news from. You want to pay attention to the fringe people. But here's the thing that you have to pay attention to. Even the fringe people are paid. And here's the difference. So I don't know if I would consider myself a fringe person, but what I try to do is bring you information with backup and actual, here's where I got the information from so you can see it, right? I'm not just going to say something and not show you. I want to show you in real time as I'm saying it, and I know I use ChatGPT and you can say what you want to, it is what it is, but I'm asking it basic knowledge-based questions. I'm not asking it for future information that's not already out there. Okay. So when I'm asking it a question and it's, generating answers to my questions and showing me, yes, this happened here. Yes, that happened there. I'm just using it as a verifiable check, but I can bring that to you and say, okay, this is what's happening and this is where we're going with this. But that's different from saying, oh, there's this national crisis and this is happening and these people are bad. And stop. Where am I getting my information from? What am I basing my information in? Or am I just trying to get an inflammatory response from you to keep you coming back? Right? A lot of people use their programming like a drug and you keep coming back to it, sometimes not even realizing, why do I keep coming back? Why do I keep watching? If you're watching because you're getting good information that you can utilize, right, in life to go forward, then great. But if you're watching it because you just kind of need that dopamine rush, that high, that that you get those tingles and those feelings, you really have to question, what is the information and what emotional response is it triggering? Right? Just all of the things on the list that gentleman was talking about, because psyops appeal to the dopamine in our brains. It appeals to that adrenaline that we feel. It appeals to us. That's why they use it, because they know that we're more easily manipulated by that. I'll call it a soup, right? By those ingredients. And so that's why psyops are very successful, because it's the way they're presented to us. And so, again, here on Unfiltered Vision News, I want this news program to grow, but I want it to grow in a way that gives you guys great information that you can use day to day. Oh, Cajun Lady, thank you so much for reposting the stream and joining us here this morning. But yeah, just going back to Black Empower's comment talking about how Nicole Collier, it makes her a damsel in distress, to contrast Jasmine Crockett's a strong, independent woman. And you're thinking to yourself, why did Jasmine change the way she was? Like, why is she being so distracting? But it creates an emotional response, right? And I don't know the outcome that they were hoping for, but it isn't going the way that I think they wanted it to. And so you've kind of seen her pull back from the spotlight. So they have to replace her, Jasmine Crockett, with someone else who's another distraction, which is this attorney, Nicole Collier, in Texas. Right? She's been on major news programs. She looks decent. She talks well. And oh my goodness, I can't believe they're doing this. Oh, you mean I can't talk while we're in session? No, you're an attorney. You know better. You're in the bathroom with a whole news crew. First of all, let's talk about her being in the bathroom with the whole news crew. That's weird. But it happened. But we weren't supposed to pay attention to that. We were supposed to be more focused on, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're attacking this Black woman. And I guarantee you, if you go outside and you talk to 10 people a day and you mention her name, they'll be like, I can't believe that they're attacking that Black woman. What are we even talking about? What are they even attacking her about? They're not attacking her, first of all. But that's the narrative. That is the emotional crux of the matter, and nobody even realizes why we're here. That's the psyop. It's crazy. And Lola says she fits the role better, right? Like Black said, weaker damsel in distress. Exactly. It's like, oh, we have to come to her rescue. But will that save her, right? Because we know as Black women, I mean, at least I do, our tears don't really move anybody. I'm waiting for her to cry because she gets that little bit clump like, oh my gosh, stop it. Do your job. Sorry, I'm a little bit harsh, but she's an attorney. I'm a paralegal. I don't like it. And I'm the same way with Jasmine Crockett. Just do your job. Stop making a spectacle of yourself. But again, they're going to use her to manipulate people. Again, when you see her, do you even know what she's discussing and talking about? And she keeps saying, it's going to affect the whole country. Yeah. If the Republicans get 5 more seats, it might. It might if they get those seats. And it says, kind of like how they switched Rosa Parks from the original lady. Rosa fit the role better. This isn't our first rodeo. Exactly. Aesthetics. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because that's what we're doing. And I'm glad, that I'm so proud of you guys. I have an intelligent audience because whenever we are in conversation, and I know I bring your conversations up on screen, you guys have intelligent things to say and you want us to do better as a community, right? As we should. We are responsible for what happens in the world and in the world around us, nobody else. And we have to be very aware of the psyops going on around us because they're constantly going on. I'm going to be very interested to see how the news cycle goes today, because the Democrats in Texas, they did, they had their meeting on their House floor yesterday. It's going to be interesting to see how the votes went. They're looking at bringing in, going to the courts with the maps. It's not going to help them because in the past, the courts have stated this is something that you guys have to deal with legislatively. But what it will create is it will create a spectacle around it, right? To get people unfocused off of a lot of things going on, because there's a lot of exposure to criminal activity, especially within our government right now, that we really have to pay attention to. So those are the headlines that I will be digging into to make sure that we stay focused, right? As I bring the news. Yeah, and Lola says drama. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They are definitely getting ready. I can tell she took some acting lessons. I do acting myself and I'm like, yeah, I can see it. The dramatic pauses and oh, me? Really? Okay, well, you guys, I have to go now. Stop that. It's crazy. It's interesting, but it's crazy. So I did want to cover this really quick before we end the stream. And this is about Tulsi Gabbard. And it says the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to cut the workforce by 40%. And Lola says, OMG, yes, right? Oh, she is playing the damsel in distress well. Oh, my son, please help me. I mean, she's good. She's good. I'm just saying. She's got the whisper tone down. She really has the super damsel in distress thing going on. It's funny. And what it's not going to do, it's not going to get people back on the Democratic plantation because I've shown you the policies that they support. That's why I took the time to look at, well, what are they supporting? What are they doing for people? Because see, at the end of the day, the general public, that's what they're looking at. They don't care if you are a man or if you're a woman. They just want you to do a good job. and represent them at the local level. They want to make sure that they have a grocery store to go to because you've taken care of the police department, right? And you're not over policing and lording it over people, but you have community policing, right? Where people are working together in the community to have a successful community. We need to get back to that and not away from it. And Black Empower says, has Jasmine Crockett even specifically commented on Nicole Collier? No, she has not. Now, she was in Illinois and she did speak. But as far as I know, I haven't seen anything about her addressing Nicole Collier. They are making her the new PSYOP face. Nicole Collier is the new poster child for the DNC. Yeah, they've tapped her. She's been tapped. You know, thinking that VP Harris calling you on a stage call is a flex. It's not a flex. It really isn't. She lost. It's not a flex. But they think that it could be. So when they're doing things like that, that means that they've actually had groups go out and question people, and they've got demographics on this. Like, they've done a whole check on it. It's still a PSYOP. And their hope is they get people back on the Democratic plantation. Lois said, yep. I mean, like, that's what we're doing. That's what's happening. So it says the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to cut workforce by 40%. So the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is decreasing the Office of Director of the Office of Director of National Intelligence by 40%. The ODNI plans to shrink its workforce by about 2,000 in February, 1,300, according to a senior ODNI official. According to an ODNI fact sheet, that the plan would cut or consolidate ODNI centers that track foreign influence, weapons of mass destruction, and cyber threats. Gabbard's office estimated the move will save $700 million a year. The fact sheet said ODNI has grown bloated and stayed from its mission with the intelligence community plagued with unauthorized intelligence leaks, politicization, and weaponization of intelligence. Yeah, getting back to these wonderful PSYOPs, right? The ODNI was created in 2005 after 9/11 attacks. It coordinates 18 different agencies. The makeup of the U.S. intelligence community and helps oversee budgets, sets priorities to ensure information analysis are shared with the president and policymakers. The total budget for all U.S. intelligence agencies exceeded $100 billion last year, according to the fact sheet. So this is how the media covered it. Daily Mail on the right quoted several senior ODNI officials who said the overhaul was long overdue and allows the agency to sunset outdated projects and focus on priorities. CBS News that leans left quoted Sean Mark Warner, who criticized Gabbard's approach, saying her record raises concerns about her ability to oversee ODNI reforms. It also noted her actions since becoming National Intelligence Director, including revoking security clearances, declassifying Russia-related documents, and reviving disputes over the 2016 election. The Hill Center noted that ODNI accused the Foreign Malign Influence Center of falsely alleging Putin aspired to help President Trump win the 2016 election, and quoted a national security lawyer who said the restructuring was a clear effort to cut staff members who might push back against the Trump administration. They have every right to shut a lot of this down. And if it's bloated, it's bloated. And to me, a lot of government is very bloated. I mean, there are over 2 million people that report to the president, just the president. Under his administration, just the executive branch, 2 million people. Really? And then we've got the legislature. And then we've got, the judicial branch. So there's a lot of people that work in our government. Just know that. And Cajun Lady says they're throwing the things at the ceiling to see what sticks. Absolutely. She goes, I think so too. Lola says. And she said, Lola also says, I'll stay home and not vote for anyone because I vote Democrat. Hey, look, and here's my thing. There are people out there that are Democrats that are great people, right? And they may not necessarily subscribe to everything in their party, just like the Republican Party. Okay? It's putting good people in office because there are decent people who want to represent in both parties, but it's finding them. Oh, I'm sorry. She says, no, I said before I vote Democrat. Oh, sorry. I got you. Sorry, I misread that. I'll stay home and not vote for anyone before I vote Democrat. Understandable, right? Because the party has turned a lot of people off. But like I said, there are good people in both parties, but it's finding them. Like I said, that's why I started the Redemption Party, because I wanted to give people an option. We actually won a town within the year that I started the party, which lets me know that people want different. They want something different. They want people who actually want to do the work, where it's not about the party, it's about getting the work done and representing the people and serving the people in the community. So with that, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News on this early edition on August 21st. So remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you on the next one.